afternoon, everyone, and to all our IEHP participants across Canada joining us on the call today. Thank you for joining the session, and I hope that you will benefit tremendously from the information that is shared today. At Pegasus, we continue to seize opportunities to engage with institutions and organizations in collaborative discussions, contributing positively to your integration into professional practice here in Canada. The road can be long and challenging, and so, of course, we seek out opportunities to promote engagement in the healthcare industry, increase your networking potential, gain cultural competency, provide alternative solutions, and contribute to your overall need for professional practice. Today's information session is specifically designed as such. We have with us today Shabana, a career and training counselor in the IRCC-funded Accelerating Career Advancement Program at Achieve, which provides educational loans to IEHPs. Shabana is here to provide an overview of the program and to let you know how to access funding as a newcomer or IEHP in Canada. Andre Williams, the program manager for the Clinical Research Certificate Program at York University School of Continuing Studies, will be presenting program requirements and other information on how this program may contribute to your success in the industry or healthcare industry in Canada. Amin Jagani, an instructor in the clinical research program at York University, will co-facilitate with Andre. Let's just pause a minute for the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also recognize that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississauga of the Credit, and the William Treaties, signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. As we gather, we commit ourselves to the ongoing work of reconciliation and stewardship by paying respect to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge the enduring presence and resilience of the Indigenous people on this land. The Institute was established from a series of biennial conferences in 2014, acknowledging the ongoing need for initiatives addressing global health challenges through a holistic lens. This symbolic winged horse of Greek mythology aligns, of course, with the Institute's mission to enhance global health by promoting peace, sustainability, and equity. The strategic pillars on which the Institute was established are exemplified in our initiatives and collaborative endeavors in regions impacted by war, political unrest, and man-made health events impacting vulnerable groups in certain regions. While we work to contribute positively to the lives of individuals in these settings, we understand a number of individuals might become forcefully displaced, and so we especially seek to support IEHPs who might find themselves in these situations, especially, of course, those who find themselves in Canada. The strategic vision is embellished by the aforementioned pillars, and as a non-profit, non-governmental organization, we of course continue to engage in collaborative knowledge exchange, network formation, and research activities that address the interconnection between peace, environmental sustainability, and health for all. Pegasus Institute supports internationally educated healthcare professionals, and you might know that as IEHPs, including refugee and asylum-seeking healthcare workers in achieving licensure and integrating into the Canadian healthcare workforce. The refugee health professionals in our program experience varying integration challenges. Some fleeing their country of origin without access to their financial resources to support themselves and family, access to documentations needed for credential assessment, or the relevant institutions are the subject of war or unrest and pose varying difficulties establishing meaningful linkages in the healthcare system to promote professional integration. And so at Pegasus Institute, we're dedicated to supporting these professionals in navigating licensing and certification processes, increasing your access to training programs to enhance medical language skills, cultural and Canadian healthcare competencies, and also to promote career connections through regular job fairs like the one we had in November, networking events, and mentorship to connect you as an IEHP with experienced healthcare or employers within the healthcare sector in Canada. Being mindful of the aforementioned challenges, of course, we try to develop a culturally sensitive and individualized one-on-one mentoring program to respond to the needs of refugee health professionals in Canada. We had a target of 10 pairs of IMGs for a minimum of 4 months. However, since the inception of this program, we have successfully matched 19 across various disciplines. So we expanded the framework, matching individuals in the field of medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, public health, and health administration. We are in the process of starting our second cohort, and as time progresses in early January, those persons who are currently on our list of mentees waiting to be matched, we have a list of over 30 individuals waiting to be matched. We will try to see how best we can match those individuals based on the availability of mentors in our pool. We offer group mentoring webinars and job fair focused on key integration areas from licensure, guidance to workplace culture, supporting IHPs as they connect, of course, with the industry experts, mentors, and peers to improve their competitiveness in the process and increase their chance of successful integration. We also have an online resource hub, which provides information on healthcare pathways for the various professions, internationally trained professional resources, and a discussion forum serving as a comprehensive platform for IHPs to access integration tools and professional guidance, creating a community of support as they navigate their pathway in Canada. First presenter to tell you about the educational loans program that is available through Achieve. Shabana, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Dwight. So my presentation is really short. It's just about financial assistance to help you pay for the training through York University. So I'm just going to share my screen. So my name's Shabana. I work for the Accelerating Career Advancement Program at Achieve. We are a nonprofit organization, and we are funded through the Government of Canada's Foreign Credential Recognition Loans Program. And we are in partnership with Meridian Credit Union. That is the financial institution that we use to help you get an educational loan to pay for your training. So the objectives of our program is to facilitate the integration of internationally trained individuals into the Canadian labor market, support the process related to foreign credential assessment and recognition, facilitate the accessibility of a loan to internationally trained individuals, and monitor the repayment of the loan. And we also provide one-on-one career counseling over the lifetime of the program or the loan period. So once you're done your training, we're here to assist you in helping you find a job in the field. So who is eligible for our program? Anyone who's an internationally trained individual. So all this means is you have education outside of Canada. So it could be high school, bachelor's, master's, PhD. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as you have education outside of Canada, you qualify for our program. And the next criteria is you must have residency status in Canada. So permanent resident, Canadian citizen, or conventional refugee. Unfortunately, we cannot assist refugee claimants until you've had your hearing and you've become a conventional refugee. So you must have status in Canada. And thirdly, you must reside in Ontario. And this is under our funders guidelines. And you're an internationally trained individual seeking to having your credentials recognized in Canada or undertaking training in an alternative career or both. So you could be pursuing your long-term goal of becoming licensed in Canada and pursuing your short-term goal of going through this training at your university at the same time, and we can assist you with that. So now I'll talk about the educational loan. As I mentioned, we are partnered with Meridian Credit Union. That is the financial institution that we use to help you get the loan to pay for your training. And you can receive a loan to a maximum of $30,000. In today's presentation, I'm just going to focus on the course, the clinical research course, and that's approximately $6,600. The interest rate is extremely competitive at this time. It is a fixed interest rate of 4.7%, and it'll be fixed at this rate until the end of December. And then in January, they'll reassess. We're hoping it'll go down in January just because the Bank of Canada's interest rates have gone down, but we don't know at this time. So at this time, it is fixed at 4.7%, and it is the best interest rate out there. So instead of using your credit card to pay for this training or your savings, this would be the best option. No credit history is required, so you could be a new immigrant to Canada and still go for the educational loan. But I just want to stress a credit check will be done. So if you've lived in Canada 6 months or a year or more, a credit check will be done. And for this educational loan, it doesn't matter how long you've lived in Canada. You could have been here 20 years and have education outside of Canada, and you want to pursue an alternative career at this time, you can go ahead and use the educational loan. And repayment terms vary from 1 year to a maximum of 5 years, depending on how much you borrow. For a $6,600 loan, it would be 2 years to pay it off. And in the next slides, I'll show you how the repayment will work. And I just have to stress, it is an educational loan, so you would have to start paying it back after 30 days. So 30 days is the grace period, and then on a monthly basis, you would have to start paying it back. If the program qualifies for OSAP would be your best option just because you don't have to pay it back right away. But if you don't qualify for OSAP, this would be the next best option. And then you'll get continued support from myself. So once you're done your training, I'm here to help you with your resume, cover letter, mock interviews, and provide job search assistance. Now I'll talk about the eligible expenses. So all of this could be covered. Qualification assessment fees, association and examination fees, tuition, books and materials, short-term bridging program, travel expenses, living expenses, and a new career path in an alternative career. All of this could be covered to a maximum of $30,000. So there's 2 documents that are required for the bank. One is a learning plan that breaks down the fees for tuition, books, laptop, examination fees, etc. And the other one is a loan assessment. This has to do with your income, your household income, and any other expenses that you might have, such as rent or mortgage, Visa card, MasterCard, line of credit. Maybe you have a car payment or even an outstanding OSAP loan. All of this is included in the loan assessment. And we provide it to Meridian Credit Union that is closest to your home. So these are the documents that are required for Meridian Credit Union, not for myself because they're personal documents, but the bank will require these documents. So your social insurance number, valid ID, $1 to open up a bank account, because if you are approved for the loan, the money will now be deposited into this new bank account. You will take it to use it for your fees, and then on a monthly basis, you'll be paying it back. Address verification, notice of assessment. If you've lived in Canada less than a year, you won't have this document. But if you've lived in Canada more than a year, you're supposed to be doing your taxes, so you must provide your notice of assessment. Bank statements, at least 3 months of bank statements, and then your most recent Visa card, MasterCard, line of credit, etc. And then if you are employed, a letter of employment plus 2 recent pay stubs. If you're not employed and you're, for example, doing Uber, you're self-employed, that's fine. You would have to provide those documents. If you're on Ontario Works, you would have to provide that document as well. Otherwise, if you're not employed and you have no income, then you would have to have a co-signer in your application who is employed and has good credit, and they would have to be willing to come to the bank with you to sign off on all the documents. They would have to provide all the documents listed here, plus their letter of employment and 2 recent pay stubs. So if you're not employed, there's no income, then a co-signer is required in your application. So now I'll just go to Meridian Credit Union's website just to show you how the repayment works so you can visually see it. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and share again. So I'm just going to focus on this particular training and do 6,600 as the cost. The interest is fixed at 4.7%, and you would have 2 years to pay it off. So your monthly payments would be $288.67 every month for 2 years, and the total interest would be $328. And that $328 is over a 2 year period. This is 288.67 includes principal plus interest. It is an open loan. You can pay it off at any time. There's no penalty, and you will save on the interest. But if you can't do lump sum payments here and there, all that's required is $288.67 every month for 2 years. As I mentioned, the interest rate is fixed at 4.7%. So this amount won't change unless you pay it off sooner, then it'll decrease. Otherwise, amount will stay the same. This is the best interest rate there is out there at this time. So take advantage of it. Hopefully in January, it'll go down. That's what we're hoping for. So that's just an example. If you need a laptop, for example, we can just add like $1,000 more or $2,000 more. I can bring it up to 8,600. It would still be 2 years to pay it off under Meridian Credit Union's guidelines. If you're requesting a laptop for $2,000, the monthly payments will be $376.14 every month for 2 years, and the total interest would be $427. So that's just an example of how the repayment will work. So I'm just going to stop sharing and go back to my presentation. So if you are interested in starting the process of getting an educational loan to pay for your training, you can just scan this QR code. It'll directly take you to an MS Forms page. Fill it out as much as you can, and I will receive the form and connect with you before the end of the day today to start the process. If you're not sure, just take a screenshot of it, and then you can connect with me whenever you're ready. So I'll just leave that on the screen for a few seconds. And these are the documents I will require just to start the process. So your resume, your residency status in Canada, and your education outside of Canada. Residency status and education is just for verification purposes. We don't save it or anything like that. I just need to verify that you're either a PR, Canadian citizen, or conventional refugee. And I just need to verify that you do have education outside of Canada. So you can send your WES evaluation or ICAS evaluation or the actual document. It doesn't even have to be converted to English. It's just for verification purposes. And those documents could be sent to me, and that's my email address there. So I'll just leave this on for a few seconds as well if anyone wants to take a screenshot or a picture of this. So that's it for my presentation. I'm just going to stop sharing.
All right. Thank you, Shabana. So Shabana will be with us for the rest of the meeting, right? So if it is that
Yes.
you have any questions that you want to post to her, you can just post those questions into the chat. The chat is open for that reason. Okay. Now Andre and Amin will be talking to us about the clinical research program at York U.
Thank you so much for that, Dwight. It's good to see, it's great to see so many people on the webinar, and thank you, Shabana, for your presentation. We'll be having a conversation after the fact. Um, and before I start the presentation, I'd like to say that your example was great because you chose the exact figure of $6,000, which is about the same price as the clinical research program. So it's good to give kind of a framework or a benchmark for people to work within if they want to seek the funding. So let me just share my screen here. And the presentation is going to be divided into two sections. I'll give a brief overview of the program, and just to kind of introduce myself, I'm the program manager for the clinical research certificate program here at York University School of Continuing Studies. And what I'll do is I'll go through the overview of the program, the breakdown of the courses, and once that's done, I'll hand it over to Amin, which is one of our subject matter experts and instructors. I'll actually give him the opportunity to introduce himself in a more professional way in terms of what he does at the school and what he does outside of the school so that you guys have that context. And then at the end, we'll open it up for questions. If at any point during Amin's presentation you have questions and you want to post it in the chat, please feel free to do so, and then I'll respond to those questions. So to start, the School of Continuing Studies is one of the largest continuing education units in Canada. A large percentage of our student population are internationally trained professionals. And so they take our programming at the school. In fact, our programming is informed not just by industry partners that are currently working in industry, but it's also informed by the feedback that we get from students at the end of every cohort. And so, Amin can attest to this. At the end of each course, what happens is that I sit down, we go through the feedback from all the students, looking at whether or not the pace is fine, if it's met their needs, if it's filled those gaps. And then if we need to refresh or update the content at the end of each cohort, we'll engage in doing so just to make sure that the education is meeting not just the needs of the students, but fitting them or tying those gaps that are required or um, necessary to get into the industry to work. So a brief overview of the features of our programming is we do have a program advisory council that helps with the development of the program, and it's a combination of high level senior professionals in the industry. And so with clinical research, you have people who are directors of research institutes and so on who helped to design the program. Um, we're the only clinical research certificate in the GTA that's offered in a blended format. Blended meaning that there's a self-directed component that you do online, and then there's another component that you learn in person with the instructors. It's hands-on, practical, and experiential, meaning it's not just giving you the concepts or the theory, but you have the opportunity through all the 6 courses to actually put into practice what you are learning. And you get that direct feedback again from our instructors who are working in industry as high-level professionals. It's accelerated, meaning it's 9.5 months of part-time, meaning that you could work full-time from Monday to Friday because our program is scheduled on the weekends. So if that's something that works for your scheduling, because you do have a full-time job, we have all of our sessions scheduled on the weekends so that it makes room for that. We have a cohort model, meaning that the moment you enroll into the first course of our program, you're enrolled in all the other 5 courses, meaning that you don't need to worry about scheduling things. It actually increases the rate of graduation for our students, as opposed to taking the courses yourself. What we've seen across higher ed in Canada is that people who tend to take 1 course at a time may take 3 courses and end up not finishing the entire program and receiving the certification, resulting in them spending money for the first 3 courses, amounting to nothing at the end. Whereas with our cohort model, because you're enrolled in the entire suite of courses, it allows you to engage in that content all the way through with the same students from course 1 to course 6. And so graduation actually feels like a really great event because you end up building these strong connections with other professionals who are taking the program with you. Like I mentioned before, we refresh the content um, at the end of each course and at the end of each program to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the students. And then we have a unique capstone course that combines all the previous knowledge that you've accumulated over the 5 courses to put into a practical project that could then augment your portfolios as you are seeking employment. The last piece that I do want to mention here that is not outlined is that you engage with our instructors on a one-on-one level. And so what we've had, and Amin again can attest to this once I shift the conversation over to him, is that we have students that are going through the program or have graduated that do reach out to the instructors and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Can you give me advice on where to look? And at times our instructors may have positions openly available in their own organizations and can either act as references or mentors to help you get through that process. And so that's just kind of a general overview of the program. I'll hand it over to Amin to get into the kind of the nitty-gritty of what we are offering in clinical research. Oh, wait, before I hand it over to Amin, this is just kind of the courses in just to specify what they are. We start off with the principles of clinical trials, research and drug development. We move into the regulatory and ethical issues of clinical trials, then into clinical trial design and planning, followed by clinical research operations, clinical trial monitoring, and that capstone that I kind of oriented. Each course is about 6 weeks long. And again, you have that self-directed component that's kind of in the beginning of each course. And then you have that live component where you are working with the instructor directly. And now I will be handing it over to Amin.
Thanks, Andre. And again, thanks, Dwight and Shabana, for an introduction on the Pegasus program and opportunity as well. I think it will definitely help those candidates out there who are interested in applying for the York program. So my presentation, just by way of background, I've been in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry for the last 25 years in clinical research and drug development. And my specialty is in precision oncology, cancer genomics, and rare diseases. And by way of background, I'm a pharmacist, and I've also done graduate level training at Queen's as well as Harvard, and then at Ivy. I joined the York program as a faculty member in 2021, post-COVID. So as you can see on the screen, what I'm sharing right now is an article that talks about, it was released, a survey that was released by the Association of Clinical Research Professionals, ACRP. And in this article, they looked more at the outlook for clinical research in Canada. And Canada is one of the world leaders in clinical trials, fourth globally in terms of number of trials if you go into clinicaltrials.gov. So a lot of activity in Canada. And as I mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic really accelerated the growth and the focus on the clinical trials industry because of the COVID-19 vaccine that was developed. Typically, I tell my students that at York that it takes about 8 to 10 years to bring a drug to market. We did it in 10 months, right? So it's a phenomenal paradigm shift. In industry parlance, they call it a black swan. It's not going to happen again, but it was definitely an opportunity to be able to look at the drug development pipeline and see how we can accelerate it. Next slide, please. Andre, able to advance? Yeah, perfect. So in this slide, I just wanted to quickly share with you in that article that I just mentioned, it basically outlines, how most of the candidates find their first clinical research job. While the biggest area is usually the postings you'll see on Indeed or on LinkedIn or other, job boards, as you can see, there's a fair amount of candidates who actually get in through internships or through referrals or networking. And so the York program is one of those programs where you have the capstone at the end, which will open up your horizons into potential, linkages within industry. And then also the referrals. I mean, that I don't think you can even place a price tag on it because we have a very esteemed faculty, the advisory board, and then we have obviously the instructors who teach as well. And so your potential to be able to connect with people who are working right in the industry, in the job itself, will place you at a significant competitive advantage compared to the average candidate out there who's applying, cold to a job posting. Next slide, please. And here again, I'm presenting the different types of employers that you will be working with in the clinical research industry, as you can see in the diagram on the right. The pharmaceutical company and the biotech on the top right corner are the biggest employers of clinical research professionals. But also there are other employers as well that include contract research organizations, government, academia. And on the left side, I've got some positions that you could potentially, be following a career for. And the ones in the arrows are the ones that require doctorate level training. And I've got another slide later on that actually goes into the positions a little bit further in detail. Next slide. So here are the positions that you could potentially apply for after you complete the York University program. On the on the bottom right corner is the medical monitor. That I mentioned first and foremost because a lot of the graduates that get into the York program are actually internationally trained medical graduates. And I think what they find appealing is the fact that, many graduates coming with international medical degrees, but then when they go through the exams and the different levels of certifications and credentials, the 3 different levels, and then they go through the matching process through CARMS, it's not easy. And many of them at some point will filter out and pursue different careers and give up the quest to certify here, just because of the nature of the recertification and credentialing. And so they'll start looking at other opportunities. And one fantastic opportunity, I think, is clinical research. And many medical physicians tend to apply to the pharmaceutical industry, but again, it's very difficult to get that foot in the door, right? And so this is one area that I have seen that medical doctors can potentially pivot from what they were doing back in the country where they came from to potentially getting into a drug research career here in Canada. And then there's some other positions as well in the top left corner, as you can see, clinical research associate in the middle. That's one of the very popular entry-level positions as well within the clinical trial industry. And obviously, this is just a small sampling of some of the openings that you can potentially apply to. There's a lot more positions as well. Next slide, please. And here are some of the areas or fields within the pharmaceutical biotech industry that you could potentially be pursuing a career in, depending on the educational background you bring to bear, right? So for example, on the type in the bottom right corner, if you're the type of person who brings in a solid mathematical background, maybe engineering, maybe statistics, maybe bioinformatics, then you can pursue a career within pharmacokinetics or pharmacodynamics or a very burgeoning area right now, which is extremely lucrative, is health economics, what we call pharmacoeconomics. On the other hand, if your degree is more chemistry or biology focused, you could potentially pursue careers within genomics. On the bottom, the two that I see, pharmacogenomics, pharmacogenetics, those are the ones that I've been focused on. But again, many other areas like computational chemistry, computational biology. And so, a lot of different potential avenues that you can pursue after the York program. Next slide, please. So what are the unique benefits of this program? As I think Andre alluded to, you will get practical hands-on application of clinical trial procedures. You will learn about regulations and best practices. And then at the end, culminating all the different courses will be the Capstone Gemini project. The Capstone project is an interesting one because you take all the knowledge that you've learned within the clinical research degree, the postgraduate diploma, and then you're going to be able to apply it into real life work kind of situations and see if you've retained any of the information over the past 7 to 8 months. And it's at the end just for strategic reasons because you want to be able to graduate the program with very strong knowledge of not only the theory but also the practice. It's a cohort-based learning, so you will build very strong professional networks. As Andre mentioned, it's a flexible program. You can get it done in 9 months. All the live sessions are done over the weekends. And then I also have classes during the weekdays in the evenings. You're looking at typically about 15 to 20 hours per week of reading and going through material. And so, be prepared to set that aside. But again, it's very easily doable for somebody who's got a full-time job. Next slide. So what I've done here is given you just a snippet of the course that I just taught that started in September. And again, I oversee the principles and foundations of clinical drug development and drug research, what I call the inaugural course when students come into the program. And as you can see, the way it's divided, it's a 6-week program. And in the first 3 weeks, I start off by teaching the overview of pharmacology, toxicology, and medical terminology, just to kind of level set on the crop of students coming in. People come in with different backgrounds. Most of my students are usually international medical graduates, but we've got students with kinesiology degrees. We've got students who are a whole bunch of dentists for the past cohort that I just taught. We have pharmacists, we have nurses. And so these people want to come in and be able to specialize within clinical research. And so the first, module 1 essentially gives you the big picture. Then in week 2 and week 3, we start getting into what I call the rules of the game of clinical research. And on your right side, you will see that there is obviously going to be assignments, there will be group work, there will be quizzes and so on. So it is a fairly intense, at the end of the day, it's a degree, York University degree, postgraduate diploma, right? And so it is within the university context. And so do be prepared to, work hard. But of course, when you're able to work hard and be able to do everything that's required at the end of the diploma is going to be a very promising career. So as I can see on the right side, there's going to be an independent assignment that I for example, give my students. The first one is on job roles. I think Shvana mentioned that the job roles that she provides career counseling on resume writing and cover letter, etc. That's essentially the first assignment that I give my students. Typically, I have about 30 to 40 students in each cohort. And they are given the task of choosing a job role like a clinical research associate, medical monitor, etc., and taking their CV and their cover letter and coming up with a customized application that we then provide feedback on to make sure that it is marketable. And then we also have a group assignments. In this case, there was a hot topic that all my students worked on was artificial intelligence and the mRNA technology, messenger RNA technology that was involved in the COVID-19 platform. We've talked about decentralized clinical trials. We talked about 3D printing and many other hot topics within drug development. And then the next slide, if you can advance, I think shows you from week 4 to week 6. And so here now you're getting into the deep dive. Where you start off with the 30,000 feet view, and then in week 4, we get into the really nitty-gritty, into the weeds of clinical research, ICH, GCP, consenting, etc. And by the 6th week, I bring it all together. Other assignments that I've given my students, for example, are assignments on quality of clinical trials. We did an assignment, which my area of specialty is within investments in biotech and pharma. So I get the students to do an assignment on biotech price volatility, where, for example, they'll be given 3 ticker symbols within biotech pharma, and they can go out there and look at some of the press releases that may potentially have affected the stock price when a company, for example, releases top-line data or readouts on their phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. So it just gives them an exposure from a business perspective as well. And then finally, the culmination is a group project where it takes the whole 6 weeks, where the students will be working in groups. And here they get to role play a vendor like a CRO or biotech vendor as well. So it's super exciting. Students love absolutely every aspect of the course, and many of them, are thoroughly excited to jump into the next course after that as well. In the next slide, I think I give you the breakdown of the assignments. So I'm not going to go through these, but this is the assignments that I just mentioned and how they're broken down. So they've got group assignments, you've got independent assignments, and you've got the final term project as well, everything adding up to 100%. Next slide. So what skills will you gain? I think the biggest skills you'll gain will be critical thinking and problem solving, right? This is not one of those courses where you just memorize stuff, right? That's more psychology 101, right? This is a course where you'll be given a problem and you'll be asked to put on your critical thinking hat and come up with some potential solutions. You'll be working in a team setting, so you'll learn teamwork. And then I think interactions, personal, because people come in with different clinical backgrounds, you'll get a chance to interact with nurses, with doctors, with other healthcare professionals who are part of your colleagues as well, and obviously the faculty as well. So I think some of the skills you gain will be invaluable as you graduate from the program. Next slide. And then who is the ideal candidate for this program? I think Andre covered it really well. We are looking for folks that have a healthcare background. I will tell you in the beginning, we had a couple of folks at the very beginning when we launched the program who didn't have a healthcare background and they struggled. Okay, so here we're looking for people who have international healthcare, background, medical, could be pharmacy, dental, etc. But again, it doesn't have to be medical healthcare. You could have a science background, like a life sciences. Just be prepared to learn some of the clinical terminology and everything up front before the course starts. Otherwise, there'll be a very steep learning curve for you. Okay. So people with professional degrees who want to get into clinical research would be ideal candidates, right? And the goal of this, and I think point number 4 is the critical thing. The goal that we are trying to attract at York University for this postgraduate program is to make sure that we give a pathway to international health graduates, medical graduates, to be able to potentially pivot to a career that will allow them to use their transferable skills and do research rather than professional practice. Okay, and I think that was my last slide. Or maybe there'll be one more just to advance it. I think that's it. So let me pause there and see if there's any questions for myself or Andre, and we'll be happy to answer them.
So I just thank you, Amin, for that. I just saw a question about asking whether or not if the entire program is online. We do have 2 iterations, and they each benefit different types of learners. The one that's coming up in winter that is scheduled at the end of January to begin, that one has one weekend per course, Saturday and Sunday, that's in person at our building. And so if you value that in-person one-to-one engagement with our instructor and your colleagues, that's the offering I'd recommend to you. The one that we have next fall, as in starting in September, that one is fully online where you do have half where it's self-directed, self-paced content, and then 2 weekends per course, you'd have Zoom one-to-one engagement with the instructor via online lectures. There is one other thing that I wanted to mention, and maybe some people are thinking about this. This program is considered an open enroll program, meaning that there's no application process involved. There's no submitting an application and waiting for us to approve it. Once you register and pay for the program, you're in the program automatically, and it schedules you for these 6 courses. There is also another question that came up in the chat about whether or not this is OSAP eligible. It is not OSAP eligible because it is a part-time certificate program. However, if you are looking for funding, Shabana is on the call from Achieve, and that is actually the recommended route that I'd give to you if you were thinking about funding options. I can't see anything else because I have this screen sharing, so I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. Yes, so I answered the question about the winter courses starting in 2025. You can wait or you can register now. It really doesn't matter for the fall. If you want to register for the fall, you can register now if you'd like to, or you can wait. That's okay. January cohort is in person. The campus is located in North York, 4700 Keel Street, which I can. What I'll do is I can through Dwight send you a one pager of the program that gives you the detail about the overview of the program, the courses, the fee, which is 6,500 about that, and then the scheduling for the program as well as the website URL. Hands-on experience, there's hands-on experience embedded throughout the entire program from course to course. So it's not just theoretical, but it focuses on the different components of a clinical trial from um, looking at the resources to the monitoring to the setting up and the management of the clinical trial. I don't want to dominate too much of the conversation, but I think maybe I'll hand it back over to Dwight. And if there are any specific questions that you
Okay.
have,
Andre,
yeah,
before you go, there are some questions here that you probably would like to attend to. So, as an international veterinarian, do I fit in? So, I think that question would be for you, definitely.
it is also for, I mean, I did actually have as somebody who has veterinary training apply for the certificate program. And my recommendation was you need to have some level of data analysis in there as well if you want to succeed in the program. I mean, could you fill in some gaps if I've missed anything?
Yes, I think that's a great background. I think we had one student two cohorts ago was a veterinarian and decided to get into clinical research because they wanted to do animal research as well. And so, yes, as long as that DVM program includes a strong component of the sciences, right, and the healthcare aspect of veterinary medicine, and also some data analysis, as Andre was saying, they should be fine.
Okay, thank you. And I'm seeing a question here. How about OBAP or OBPP, Ontario Bridging Program? I think they're asking about that funding. I'd tell you for sure that this is not a bridging program. So for OBAP or for you to get that OBAP funding, it has to be an approved bridging program that you're participating in. Bridging programs, for example, those training courses that may be offered through, say, University of Toronto for pharmacists or bridging program for nurses, those are specifically geared towards those professions. So those will get approval. The clinical research program would not fall under that category. And I'm seeing here for cost, I think that was covered earlier. If you can share that slide again, Andre, that would be good.
Mhm.
And okay, hands-on, theoretical, clinical trials, we already covered that. And English requirements or English language requirements. Could you speak to that a little, please, while you
Um,
pull up that slide?
Generally, I believe it's IELTS 6.5 is the recommended requirements. If you want to investigate that more, I'd invite you to email us at continue@yorku.ca, and then we can engage with you more directly. Um, I'm looking for the slide right now. That's why I'm kind of like between both things here. And I see a question about a payment plan. In order to start the program, full payment has to be made before the first day of the first course. And so there's some students that like to do deposits over time to get up to the first day, but the moment the first day of classes begin, the full payment is due. So again, if you do want to go on something that's kind of like a payment plan or some sort of funding, Shabana has left her contact information there to get that funding from Achieve. And if Dwight, if I can't find the slide as of right now, it's a one-page document. Can I forward it to you to then forward to the registrants?
Sure, I will be able to send that on to the registrants. I think Shabana also covered the cost in her presentation,
Hmm.
6,600. That was the information that was presented there. But yes, we can give you that in black and white for your references. All right, thank you so much. Do we have any other questions?
I can respond to the
Computer
last question that
processing
came
and
in.
okay, sure, good.
Um, once I send the slide to Dwight, it's going to have the overview as well as the course breakdown and the descriptions of each course, as well as the program fee and the scheduling. So it should respond to your question there.
Does the training require study permit for asylum seekers?
No, well, I'm not sure about that one, to be honest.
Okay,
I can
so
investigate that further.
for asylum seekers, though, I think as long as you're engaging in training that exceeds a certain period of time, then you would need to make that known to IRCC, and they will give you permission to study if that is something related to your area of training prior to coming into Canada. Okay, so with that being said, thank you so much, Achieve and your cue, Shabana, Andre, and Amin, for coming and, of course, giving us information on the various programs. To all the participants who have joined us today, thank you for joining the session. This is Pegasus Institute, and again, we provide support to internationally trained healthcare professionals. We have with us, members of our team. Mohammed is our IT personnel. We also have our executive director, Melissa Whaling, and I am the mentorship coordinator, Dwight Baker. And in terms of the recording, I keep seeing that one in the chat. Let me just address that as well. The recording will be posted on our website. So I'm gonna just reshare the slide deck. You can scan the QR code that is there, the website address. You will be able to find that information there. In terms of upcoming events as well, come January, this is specifically geared towards our IMGs in Canada. We'll be looking at practice readiness assessment. So we'll be taking pursuits from the whole evaluation process, looking at eligibility, and then exploring strategies from, of course, entry straight into practice, whether it be restricted or unrestricted license, depending on the province that you decide to do this process in. Okay, so you can look out for the information for that session coming up in January of 2025. The QR codes are there to connect with us. The mentorship program QR code is there. If you scan that QR code, you use any of the communication format that is there. That communication comes straight to me, and I'll be happy to respond to whatever inquiries you might have from there. Thank you very much all for joining, and I'll see you next time. Again, I'm Dwight Baker, Mentorship Coordinator. Feel free to send me any questions or requests that you have pertaining to our programs or the programs that were presented today. Until next time, have a wonderful time.
Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you so much, Dwight. Thanks, everyone.